This is really not a video that I was expecting to make today. Today, myself and lots of fans heard some very tragic news, being that the absolute legend voice actor Peter Cullen, widely loved by fans for his voice work, mostly, of course, as the leader of the Autobots, Optimus Prime, in Transformers, and also as well as Eeyore in Winnie the Pooh, and also as recently Fetus in the series Invincible, among lots of other roles. We unfortunately heard the sad news that today he has passed away at the age of 85. This is just absolutely devastating to me because, for those of you who are not aware, Peter Cullen is my all-time favourite voice actor ever. And as you may have guessed, Optimus Prime is obviously, of course, my all-time favourite role of his, and it's all because of him and what he did for the character that made Optimus my all-time favourite character ever, and that'll never change at all. So, when it comes, of course, to my experience, of course, hearing Peter Cullen's voice, I'm pretty sure that the first time I heard his voice was as Eeyore in Winnie the Pooh. So you could essentially say that I've heard his voice pretty much my entire life. And if you're going to be asking me, of course, how did I first discover he was the voice of Optimus Prime? Well, it's actually quite a funny story because my introduction to Transformers and to Optimus Prime, and of course Peter Cullen, was in the video game based on the film Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. I played it because I thought it looked good in like a third person shooter game, transforming. Didn't know any of the characters at all, but after I, of course, really loved the game, and I held it in a lot of high regard, especially now because it was my introduction to Transformers, I decided to watch the films, and by watching the films by Michael Bay, I became a fan of Transformers, and nowadays I regard it as my favourite franchise ever. And hearing Peter Cullen's voice in that game and also the films was just amazing to me. He has such a very amazing voice, which is very calming and gentle and just the perfect voice for the character of Optimus Prime. Then, as well as watching the films, while I was waiting for Transformers Dark Moon to come out in the cinemas, because for those you don't know, that's actually the very first Transformers film I saw at the cinemas, I was really getting into the franchise. I was very invested in it. For example, I was collecting the action figures. I even played the game based on the first movie, and also the game based on Dark Moon, which is actually a prequel to that film's story. Great games, by the way, that trilogy. And I also, as well, delved into the Transformers Cybertron games. First of all, of course, with War for Cybertron, and I absolutely loved it. And when I first heard that Peter Cullen was voicing Optimus in that game, I was very happy and so pleased to hear his iconic voice for the character. Just amazing. You know, he had so much gravitas in his voice that I just loved hearing him and recognizing him every time. Like, whenever I heard his voice, I was like, that's Peter Cullen. I was always, so happy to hear his voice. Then, after that, I discovered that Transformers actually, of course, had a cartoon in the 1980s. I had no knowledge of this as I'd literally just got into the franchise when I was a kid. And I first of all watched the 1986 movie, and I was completely shell shocked when I heard that he voiced Optimus in the show and the movie from the 1980s. He was literally there at the beginning of the franchise in the media, which just blows my mind. And even when he first kicked off as Optimus, incredible. Just absolutely fantastic. And I know a lot of people are going to be asking me, of course, what did I think of Transformers the movie? Well, Transformers the movie from 1986 is actually an example of a film that I don't like, unfortunately. And the main reason why I did not like it was because it killed off lots and lots of my fan favourite characters, including Optimus, and I was so angry about that because obviously, of course, he's my favourite character of all time, my favourite Transformer ever. Apparently, they did it just to, introduce to new characters for the toy line by Hasbro, but I personally don't think it was a good move. But thankfully, towards the end of the G1 series, they did resurrect him, which I really appreciated them doing. Like, that's literally the only episode I liked from, of course, the new series after the movie. And then he'd, of course, go on to voice Optimus, starting, of course, with Michael Bay's first movie. Then he'd reprise his role in the sequels as well, being Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, Age of Extinction, and The Last Night. He'd even, of course, go on to voice him in video games. I've already mentioned the trilogy based on Michael Bay's first three films, and then War for Cybertron. And then, when it comes to hearing his voice on the big screen for the first time in Dark of the Moon, I was just so amazed. Like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing because it was just incredible. Dark of the Moon will be an experience for me I'll always cherish as a fan of Peter Cullen and Transformers. I then, of course, went to see the next films afterwards at the cinema from then on. Age of Extinction, The Last Night. Then, of course, the reboot films being Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts. Now, I am not going to deny that I had lots and lots of problems with the sequels after Dark of the Moon. There was lots and lots of things I did not like and also hated about them, but Peter Cullen was not one of them. It never at all affected my love for him as Optimus because despite the script being really questionable, I'm not going to deny that, he still gave an amazing performance as Optimus. He really did. You could tell when seeing him do the recordings behind the scenes, talking about Optimus, how much he loved doing the voice. Then when it comes to animated series, I got the amazing joy of hearing him again in the show Transformers Prime. Phenomenal show. Absolutely incredible from start to finish. In that series, he really shined as the gentle, amazing leader that Optimus is. And I really love that about Transformers Prime. Just an incredible show. And I think I speak for lots of people who grew up with that show, like I did alongside the G1 cartoon. And I think by talking about the G1 show, I'm also speaking, of course, for fans who grew up listening to him, of course, in the 80s. Then also in 2012, he reprised his role in Transformers Fall of Cybertron, which, in my opinion, is the greatest Transformers game ever made. Just an absolute masterpiece. And in that game, he once again delivered a stellar performance as Prime, just like he always has done. Just amazing. Then he'd gone to voice the character in even more productions. He voiced him in several more series, such as the continuations of Transformers Prime being Robots in Disguise. Not to be confused with early 2001, I'm talking about the continuation of Transformers Prime. Then also in Transformers Rescue Bots as well, and even as well in some series, of course, being Power of the Prime and Titan's Return. Those two series he reprised his role for were unfortunately the last TV shows he voiced Optimus in, which really breaks my heart. And then when it comes, of course, to the new films Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts, I loved hearing him reprise his role as Optimus in the film Bumblebee. And I loved seeing his iconic G1 design in live action, just incredible to see. And hearing his voice, majestic, absolutely amazing. And then 5 years later, he of course returned in Rise of the Beasts, and unfortunately, that was the last time he played Prime in a Transformers movie. It was his final film. And when I heard he was reprising his role for that film a couple of years before it came out, I was so thrilled. I was like, yes! I was so happy. And in the film, he delivered an absolutely fantastic performance again. Um, because despite the fact that he was in his 80s playing Prime in that film, he'd still got it. He absolutely nailed it as Prime. Still made him the absolutely iconic, incredible character that he always has been, and he absolutely nailed it. Then I think he reprised his role for other things, such as there was a Paramount advert, I think, which aired in the Super Bowl of 2024. Then I believe he also reprised his role for Fortnite as well, because they added Optimus to that game to celebrate the release of Rise of the Beasts. And then I think he also reprised his role for a guest appearance on a show called The Masked Singer. I've not seen that show, I've only seen, of course, that clip of Optimus, and he even as well participated in the events celebrating 40 years of the G1 cartoon, you know, reciting lines from the very first episode, More Than Meets the Eye, part 1 and 2. And just absolutely incredible. And I even as well had the absolute privilege and honour of hearing his voice as well on the Transformers ride at Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida. He even attended the opening of the ride, you know, alongside the other cast members, such as, of course, his longtime close friend Frank Welker. Because even though they played rivals in Transformers, being Optimus Prime and Megatron, they were such amazing friends behind the scenes. They attended conventions together, and they were just incredible friends. And when I went on the ride for the first time in 2013, when I went to Florida for the first time, by then I was already familiar with the Transformers cast of the voice actors, and when I heard his voice on the speakers as I was queuing up for a ride, because on the TVs they play clips of Transformers talking, Optimus being one of them, and I heard his voice, I was so happy. I was like, it's Peter Cullen! Like, I was just so overjoyed hearing his voice on the ride, and getting to go on the ride, hearing his voice in action as Optimus, just amazing. And thanks to Peter Cullen, we had such an iconic character, and who will, of course, live on forever thanks to what he's done. The fact he'd played the character for over 4 decades just proves how much he cared for Optimus and how much he cared for the fans. He himself was actually so shocked to find out that people did not like the Transformers movies scene of killing off Optimus. I mean, it was so upsetting, even children were leaving the cinemas distraught. I mean, if I was watching a film in the 80s at the cinema, I'd have probably left the cinema as well. Because it was just devastating. I mean, thank goodness they brought Optimus back, but still. Um, Peter Cullen, of course, cared for his fans, and I can totally see why he kept coming back to reprise his role for the films, shows, video games. Even in games I wasn't really a fan of, he was still great in them. For example, Rise of the Darkspark. I'm not going to deny that I hate that game. I think it's an awful Transformers game. But he was never a problem in that game as Optimus. Just fantastic as Optimus in the game, despite me not liking the game. Peter Cullen was still incredible as Prime in it. And even getting to play the G1 version of Optimus again in Transformers Devastation as well, alongside other cast members from G1, was also lovely to hear as well. And he was absolutely fantastic as Prime in everything he was in. Like, he cared so much for the character. He even said to himself that Prime's his favourite role he's played, and I can definitely totally see why. And when it comes to other roles he's played as well as Optimus, I, of course, grew up with him as Eeyore, and I definitely hold him in high regard as my favourite Eeyore, of course, because he's my favourite voice actor. In Transformers G1, he even as well got to voice Ironhide as well, because the producers liked his voice so much that he not just got a voice of Optimus, but also for Ironhide, and I thought he was an amazing Ironhide in G1. definitely made Ironhide also an iconic character as well. And he voiced other characters too. From what I can remember, I believe he voiced the Protector bot called Streetwise as well, which was definitely very nice to hear as well, of course. And you know, he was great. And also voicing characters such as Wingspan, Slugsing, and also Nightstick as well. And as well as that, when it comes to his most recent works, I definitely absolutely loved him as Vader in Invincible. Because when they announced he was going to be in Series 2 on the trailer, especially because, you know, they gave him the special billing last out of the cast reveal, I was just so amazed that he was going to be in it. And as Vader, he absolutely nailed it as him. Just gave an amazing performance. Series 2, who, you know, he was my favourite part of it. That goes without saying, really. And I've not had the chance to watch Series 3 and 4 of Invincible yet, but I'm hoping to get around to watching it at some point so I can hear his voice as Vader, of course. And as well as, of course, playing those characters, he even has voiced other great characters too, such as, for example, for example, Marvel productions and DC productions as well, which is amazing. And he even got to voice Mario from Super Mario, which was definitely really awesome. One of the first voices for a character. And when it comes to his Marvel work, I loved him, for example, as Bruce Banner and the Hulk, and also Mysterio, Red Skull, you name it. And in DC as Felix Faust as well. And he might have probably voiced other characters too, I'm not sure. I'd have to see for myself what he's voiced. And also, as well, I also have heard his voice as the character called Car in a series called Knight Rider. I've not seen that show, but I'm only familiar with it because it appeared in the game Lego Dimensions. But he, of course, voiced Car in an episode of that series, and when I heard his voice, because I checked it out, of course, at one point, I thought he did a great job voicing Car in it, which was great to hear. And so, just an absolutely incredible voice actor and such a genuine kind person, because I've seen videos on YouTube of fans meeting him at conventions and seeing him in interviews. Such an amazing guy, someone who absolutely loved his character. And I think it's also very appropriate that I also thank his brother Larry, may Larry rest in peace, because it was his brother who convinced him to take on the role of Optimus, because he'd recently returned from the army and Peter Cullen was about to go to audition for Optimus. And Larry, of course, gave him some absolutely incredible advice. And thanks to Larry, we got such an iconic character, because he said to him, and I quote, "Peter, don't be a Hollywood hero. Be a real hero. Real heroes don't yell and act tough. They're tough enough to be gentle. So control yourself." And thanks to that amazing advice from his brother, he was cast as Optimus, and also to his surprise as Ironhide as well. And when voicing Optimus, he's based his voice, of course, on his brother, because he saw a change in him when he returned from the army. He was quieter, and he was both a man and a superhero to him, as he said himself. And he said the voice that came out of him sounded just like Optimus. And I couldn't agree more with what Peter said. And I can take comfort in knowing that Peter is, of course, in heaven now with Larry and all of his loved ones who are no longer with us. And I think I speak for all of his fans in saying that I am absolutely going to miss him so much. I think watching the Transformers films again and the shows and playing the games is going to hit a lot harder for me now, knowing that the voice of my childhood, my hero, my inspiration to be a voice actor myself is gone. Transformers is just not going to be the same anymore without him, because I feel like Peter Cullen was the heart and the soul of the franchise, because he kicked off the Transformers franchise with the G1 show, and he'd keep playing his iconic character for over 4 decades, and I will miss him very much. Peter Cullen is definitely a hero to me, even for doing something as simple and reassuring as playing a character, in the words of his brother, as being tough enough to be gentle. I'll miss him so much. Rest in peace to the absolute legend, Peter Cullen. Until all are one, and I think it's very appropriate that I close this video with a small clip of Peter himself recording lines for his iconic, beloved, fan favourite character of Optimus Prime.
I have witnessed their capacity for courage, and though we are worlds apart, like us, there's more to them than meets the eye. I am Optimus Prime, and I send this message to any surviving Autobots taking refuge among the stars. We are here. We are waiting.